innovation, and economic growth. While we'll have the panel coming in a few minutes, I, as your moderator today, so I'm Nidhi Bhasin, and I'm the CEO of Digital Green in India, and we work with basically smallholder farmers and AI. We basically have today partners who will talk about how smallholder farmers who sit at the center of the global food system and how digital public infrastructure, DPI, really provides a building block to enable AI-powered advisory tools for farmers to help them manage risks, access information, and participate in markets. We will show how India is using the whole DPI infrastructure to ensure that the farmer benefits and gets impact from here, and also how the overall South-South collaboration can come together, especially in countries like Ethiopia. Before we really have a bigger discussion out here, I would like to invite Sanjay Jain out on the stage. Sanjay is the Director of Digital Public Infrastructure for Gates Foundation. And before he actually comes on the stage, I think this is also an amazing moment in India for us to talk about DPIs, especially as in the latest budget, the FM has spoken about and also have included resources for Agri Stack and Bharat Vistar. We'll learn more about it today. We'll talk more about it today. But I'll just hand over the mic to Sanjay Jain to deliver the keynote. Thank you.
Thanks, Nidhi. Thank you for that introduction, and thank you everyone for being here for this very important conversation. The number of people living in extreme poverty has fallen by 2/3. Today, however, the resources to help continue that progress are being abruptly cut back, with countries slashing more than $30 billion in aid over the last year alone. In a future of more limited resources, we have to harness new technologies such as DPI and AI to help countries do more with less. As we know, many smallholder farmers, particularly women, have long been disconnected from information about things like best practices, resilient seed varieties, market information, not to mention up-to-date information on weather, pest, and disease risks. Countries like India have been leading the way by building digital public infrastructure that's needed to enable better advisory services, as well as to access services like finance, subsidies, insurance, and other tools to help increase productivities and income. We have seen states in India deploy digital services for farmers like Krishi Samriddhi in Odisha, reaching 7 million farmers at a cost of less than 18 cents per farmer per year to improve farmers' income, especially during climate shocks. Nidhi mentioned that the role of the Government of India. See, the Government of India has designed and invested in Agri Stack to help develop national farmer registries, crop registries, and plot registries. Building on this and utilizing Agri Stack as the foundation, AI solutions can be delivered to farmers via the Vistar platform, which synthesizes content from many sources into a consumable product for farmers. Both these innovations, Agri Stack and Vistar, were recently announced as part of the 2026 budget, and resources are allocated to them. Ethiopia is another country that we can look to see how these technologies are being deployed. Ethiopia's digital ID system, FIDA, allows a farmer to register, geotag her land, and use AI-enabled tools to get information in the language she speaks, tailored to the soil and weather patterns she experiences, so that she can boost her yields and grow a greater variety of more resilient crops. She can then see fair market prices for these crops and sell directly to buyers using Ethiopia's e-payments app called FIDA Pass, a direct economic benefit to them. To impact those who need them most and make them secure and sustainable, DPI systems must be designed for the public good, led by nations themselves, and grounded in the trust of the people who use them. As nations invest in digitization, many partners have come forward offering to help countries build digital tools. But we have seen that in some of these cases, these tools aren't as effective as countries hope, either because they're designed to extract a significant profit, or because they're designed for a specific use case and don't integrate with other key digital services. So just to take a step back, we want to define DPI so that it can be powerfully integrated and sustainable. At the Gates Foundation, we are aligning with the World Bank's definition on DPI, which establishes DPI as foundational, reusable digital building blocks, such as digital payments, identity, and data sharing, designed for the public benefit. The foundation is also investing in tools like MOSIP that combine the best ideas from DPI deployments around the world into open source platforms which countries can adapt and customize to meet their unique needs. The countries who do have this foundational infrastructure in place will have extraordinary possibilities at their fingertips to build next generation tools and services that can transform societies. This is only possible if they focus on developing them for the people who need them most. In our panel here today, we'll dive into some of the particular examples. We'll discuss the usefulness and impact that can come from strong DPI agriculture advisory services for smallholder farmers. Our panelists each play a critical role in bringing together the infrastructure, policies, and partnerships needed to bring the vision I opened with. The vision we're providing timely, accurate, context-specific extension advice to smallholder farmers in their local languages is feasible, scalable, and has the potential to impact livelihoods. This is going to be one of the biggest engines of the Global South. In closing, these days people tend to talk about how the challenges facing the world have never been greater. But the truth is, neither have the opportunities. As long as there's trust in the system, trust underpins adoption and scale. Trust in data, institutions, models, and governance arrangements is shaped as much by transparency, consistency, and accountability as by technical performance. This is the power of DPI in agriculture. Let's open it up to hear from our panelists about their work to accelerate impact where it is needed most. Thank you, and back to you, Nidhi.
Thank you, Sanjay. And may I request you to please, stay on the stage, and I'll invite the other panelists too. Yeah. Sorry, everyone. So we're still waiting for one of our panelists, Jagdish Babu. But while we're waiting for him, let me please invite, our other two panelists on the stage. Fatima Almula, please, on the stage. Thank you. And Niriksha Shetty, she's the CEO of PXD. Thank you. Thank you, Sanjay, and thank you, Niriksha and Fatima. Sorry, can you hear me? Yeah, can you hear me now? Yeah, great. Thank you, Sanjay. That was a very, very convincing and a motivating keynote. I think it puts the right context for us to take this conversation forward. But before I take it forward, I would also once again like to introduce both of you. So Fatima is from the UA Presidential Course. Thank you for being here. And Pratiksha Shetty is the CEO of PXD. While we'll wait for Jagdish, I'll introduce him when he comes in. I think he's stuck in one of the queues outside. But Sanjay, coming to you, I think, I know you have spent last 7-8 minutes, and you must be a little exhausted. But I would still want to pick up the context from how you spoke about, and you gave the example of Ethiopia also. From a point of view of, how do you really see, viable business and incentive models for sustaining AI advisory and DPI investments, particularly in public-private partnerships or hybrid delivery arrangements? What models have shown promise and where they have failed and why they have failed? It would be great if you can share some examples with us.
Can you hear me? Thanks for that, Nidhi. So I think one of the points that we wanted to first sort of focus a little bit on the sustainability aspect of some of these services where we are looking at these models. So broadly, what we have seen around the world is that when countries, the default way of building software and systems has been that you build for each application separately. And it's only when you sort of start to take a consistent view that you want to build a common ID system, like in India, you have one ID that is used for all services. Similarly, around the world, when you sort of say that each department should not build its own ID system, its own payments, its own data exchange layers, that's only when you actually start to look at building a DPI way of building systems. And that then makes it more sustainable. And when you don't do that, you see the failures happen. So for example, if you see, not an agriculture-specific use case, but for example, I think in Nigeria, you've got about 13 different ID systems. And each of them is sort of run independently, and that's a big cost. And so on the other hand, if like in India, we see Aadhaar, in Ethiopia, we see FIDA. These are examples where you're able to build a single system which can then deliver these benefits across the entire ecosystem. And so that is sort of the counter example to the one that you described, right, about failure. So which is really what I would say is that you need to have a very coherent approach to do that.
Yeah, thank you. I think, a little bit on that, building a single system, I think when JV comes in, Jagdish comes in, he's going to touch upon that. But, moving forward, I also wanted to, share with everyone that we are trying to structure this conversation, actually trying to cover 3 main points. One is around basically how DPI enables AI in agriculture, something that you're already talking about, Sanjay, you're already talking about. And secondly, we will, after addressing this point, we will come to how AI-powered advisory systems are supporting farmer decisions making in practice. And last but not the least, the most important, we are going to touch upon inclusion. How do we ensure that tools reach the farmers who need them the most? So that's how we're going to structure the rest of the conversation. But, picking up from what Sanjay said, Fatima, if I could come to you, we know that UAE is really investing a lot on the overall AI systems, right, and the AI capacity. How are you thinking about partnering with countries that may not have that kind of AI capacity? And how do you see the real case for collaborations out here? Just press the button. Yeah.
It's not turning on. Yes. Thank you. Good morning, everybody, and thank you for having me here today. First of all, I want to acknowledge the Indian government and say thank you. What an incredible AI summit. Really, we're so blown away by the scale of this AI summit, and to have it in the region is really amazing. And thank you to the Gates Foundation as well for putting this session together. I think it's a very timely conversation to be having. India has really established itself as a leader when it comes to digitalization infrastructure. We can see that with, the efforts that have been built in the Agri stack and Vistar, and it's really amazing to see that has the potential to really become the backbone of agriculture. So congrats on India for leading on that. The UAE is also, as you mentioned, Nidhi, we're also investing a lot when it comes to AI and really leveraging digital technologies in order to advance our own development as a country. And one of the things that we're also doing is really championing AI in agriculture as well. So in December, we launched Abu Dhabi's AI ecosystem for global agricultural development. And this ecosystem aims to do exactly just that, is to support countries and institutions across the value chain of agriculture to be able to develop AI products as public goods and then scale them at large. 2 key initiatives that came out of this ecosystem. Number 1 was the CGIAR AI Hub, where we're working very closely with them to translate AI data into public goods. And the second thing that we launched in partnership with the Gates Foundation is the Institute for Agriculture and AI, which is a dedicated institute that aims to pipeline all development of AI products within this institution. And it's going to be part of the Mohammed bin Zayed University of AI, which is one of the best universities of AI in the world right now. And this institute, specifically to answer your question, will do a couple of things. Number one, it aims to mobilize large-scale corpus, so bringing together international organizations, multilateral banks, private sectors, academia, to house agricultural data. The second thing that it aims to do is to mobilize compute power in order to train and to host models to be able to support countries to develop these products. Thirdly, it will tailor these models through technical assistance depending on language, location, culture, and so on. And of course, the last thing that it will aim to do is also be able to provide training to different countries so that countries can have full ownership of these public goods.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing that, Fatima. I think we all can see that really some of the countries who don't have that kind of infrastructure, how will all these countries really benefit from there? But, I have a follow-up question for you out there. What are the concrete steps required with governments to establish AI advisory systems that inform farmer decision-making? And what does it really take to go from pilot to scale?
So can you repeat the first question, please?
So what are the concrete steps required with government? So what does the government really need to do to establish AI advisory systems that inform farmer decision-making?
So one of the things that I think is very important for governments to do is, first of all, to take ownership and to champion in order to support farmers, and to build ecosystems such as the one that we launched, so that there are steps throughout that are supporting governments in order to develop these products that can eventually reach the farmers. So when we launched the AI ecosystem for global agriculture development, the value chain it covers is everything from concept, developing as a concept, AI research, agriculture AI research, and then the actual product development of the public good, and eventual large-scale scaling. Once you're able to institutionalize all of these different areas, you're able to create a pathway to develop these products, and then eventually, and also while you're simultaneously working with the several countries for them to be involved in the decision-making as well, and to be able to tailor it to the farmers. One of the things that we did, for example, is through this initiative, the AI Hub, we've launched the Agriculture Large Language Model, which is one of the first large language models fine-tuned for agriculture and provided as a public good. And we did this in partnership with Digital Green, who was a main partner, the CGIAR, the World Bank, the Gates Foundation, Embrapa, Bayer. So we're bringing in not just governments and institutions, but also private sectors to be able to contribute this and to be able to fine-tune it specifically for agriculture and for farmers.
Great. I think that's definitely also addressing the need of the hour to strengthen the whole advisory system. Nirisha, I have many questions for you, but I actually ideally wanted it to be a follow-up questions of Jagdish's questions, so I'll still wait for 5 minutes, otherwise I'll come back to you. Sanjay, can I come back to you in the meantime? I think when we are talking about, reaching the last mile, also the scale, one of the biggest things which comes out is benchmarking, right? And, what do you think for better benchmarking approaches that reflect real-world performance? Let's say contextual relevance, safety, trust, all of that put together, what is the evaluation landscape like? What are the gaps in the current benchmarking? Let's say example of AgriBench. And what public good do we need to keep up? So from a benchmarking evaluation point of view, what are the benchmarking tools? How do you think we need to address what is happening in this whole system?
Actually, the value of benchmarks are is manifold. Of course, it helps for people to be able to evaluate those systems, but also sets up a standard against which people can compare with each other. It also sets up a competition landscape so that people are then competing to actually build to compete with others on the same benchmark. So I'm actually not completely on board with the Agri bench effort. So I don't want to specifically answer that, but we have seen that in general, broadly, benchmarks serve as a very important public measure that allow coordination across different actors to then be able to deliver services to the end user. And so with that in mind, I do think that's an important effort, but the second part of benchmarking is it has to continuously evolve. So once you actually have a benchmark out there, then you have people start to meet it, then you have to actually keep on evolving because users need to keep changing, and also their ability to distinguish between the different parties who are supporting them in the field also keep changing. So that is a constant effort. So benchmarking is not a one-time effort, but something that has to be done on a continuous basis.
Yeah, thank you. I think even we are at Digital Green, I think we are a part of putting that effort towards benchmarking, because we all realize and understand that as we are creating these solutions, benchmarking becomes a very, very important to have standardized evaluation systems. Riksha, let me just, I think, come to you right now. And, PXT really works and supports with the government in helping them to create, the AI advisory systems. And, if you really accept the hypothesis that reusable templates and blueprints are the way forward, and everybody doesn't need to really build from scratch, what should the government prioritize? What should they not prioritize? And how do you make sure that, systems reach scale?
Thanks, Nidhi. I wish JB was here to talk about the reusable blueprints, because that flows really nicely in here. But I think, we've been working with the Ministry of Agriculture and several other governments on scaling DPI systems like Bharat Vistar. And from that, three reflections on what I think governments should prioritize as you think about actually getting to scale. One is sort of riffing off what Fatima said, institutional ownership and mandate. So focus on governance, focus on who takes accountability when things go wrong, making sure things are resourced in the long term, both in terms of people, but also in terms of budget, so that these programs, you don't set them up and then they just wither away and die out. So there's that constant innovation, constant learning. So that's one. Second is continuing to invest in data pipelines and content pipelines. So as the research evolves, as the data gets better, making sure you have the investment in place to feed that into those systems. And then last, and I think this is the most important one, is making sure the feedback loops exist from farmers and from frontline workers. So you're not just measuring, downloads or how many people accessed a service, but you're meaningfully thinking about, did they engage with it? Did it actually create impact for the end user? And so as a consequence of that, I think the things I would say prioritize less is locking in on a particular model or a particular technology. These things are going to evolve at frenetic pace, and I think we need to design systems as most DPI is designed to sort of be interoperable, to switch in and switch out what's working better as the benchmarks improve and as they tell us what's working and what's not.
From there, Sanjay, if I can come back to you, and sorry to put you on a spot. This was a question I was planning to ask JB, but I thought maybe you would be the right person also to say that, especially in terms of what even Fatima spoke about in terms of the collaborations and partnerships, bringing from there to, how do you, there's always a confusion between how do you really distinguish between AI infrastructure and AI solution, and how does this all relate to the DPI? You're the DPI expert, so I thought maybe, let me just ask you this question. And, why does this matter when countries really decide to invest into something like this?
So thanks for that. The thing that DPI does is it allows you to go out at scale for the entire population. It effectively creates something you'd call a system of record. So you have the farmer registries, you have the transactions, you have those histories, you have those underlying systems, and on top of that you have then the systems that establish identity, authenticate it, or create payments, subsidies, insurance, etc. All of these are essential for the farmer services to actually exist and work. The second, they're also essential to customize the advisory services for the farmer. So if you're a farmer and you call an advisory service, you're able to identify yourself, your plot of land, get the information that relates to the plot of land, maybe the soil health information or the historical, what has happened on that piece of land over the last few years, and then the weather that's relevant to you. So it basically allows the advisory service to be very much directed towards you. So this extreme personalization for everyone in the continent can only, or country, or whatever scale you're looking at, can only happen if you have the right DPI in place. So that's why we always say that DPI is essential for AI to be inclusive, because AI systems can only work if they have information about that particular user or that individual. And so for that reason, for AI to be inclusive, you actually need that underlying DPI layer first that then enables the personalization context to happen. And that is, and so that's really one of the key sort of separators. So AI and DPI have to work together for this.
So from what I understand, and correct me if I'm wrong, a DPI layer is like a horizontal, and it's a must, right? It's a must. And on top of that, I think your other AI infrastructure needs to be built, or let's say solutions. Private players or government can come in and build the solution. And that's how each country should look at it, right?
Exactly. So yeah, you have this big horizontal which covers everyone. And then on top of it, you would have maybe different people or the government building solutions that then can work with the farmer or maybe with extension workers so that they can give the right advice to farmers. So there can be different targeted approaches that build on top of that.
Okay. Fatima, you know, as you know, we are sitting in India and we are talking about a lot of DPIs and AI advisory in India, but you know, as UAE started talking about and investing into AI, is there something that learning that you took from India? Is there something that you know you said, yes, this is working right, and let's use it and scale it up?
Absolutely, I think there's a lot to learn from India. You guys are much more advanced when it comes to AI and scalability in agriculture. One example that I can give is one of our co-funded initiatives called Aim for Scale, which we co-fund with the Gates Foundation. It's really an initiative to drastically scale scientifically proven technologies in order to reach farmers. And we work closely with the Indian government. So one of our first innovation packages to come out of Aim for Scale is AI weather forecasting. And through this and through working with closely with the Indian government and through working also with PXD, we were able to reach 38 million farmers to provide better AI weather forecasting in preparation for the monsoon season. And that in itself was really an example of true success and working hand in hand with governments and with organizations such as PXD in India. The access that we were able to have, we would not be able to do that if we did not have such good partnerships. So I think that is one great example and one success story. And we do have a goal to reach 100 million farmers, hopefully by 2030.
Thank you. I think that would be really very motivating for a lot of stakeholders sitting in this auditorium today. I'll just make it an open question for both of you, Sanjay and Niraksha. That when I was introducing, I spoke about the finance minister, putting resources for Vistar. What do you think, and since both of you work very closely with the government, what do you think? Of course, I know Digital Green was also a part of this whole foundation of Vistar, but what do you think led to that success, and how do other governments or countries replicate that?
I think back to the first point I made, I think institutional mandate is critical. I think I have seen, from the early days when you guys were part of this, having champions for this within government that buy into the value of DPI, that commit to national scale, and that are willing to sort of put in the time and effort and resources that require bringing, both doing the actual work, but then also bringing the coalition of partners together, generating momentum for it within the government. I think that has been key. And we all work in government. There's a lot of shifting priorities. There's a lot of changes. I think what has been key to the success here is that continued championing of this initiative across different stakeholders within the Ministry of Agriculture?
Yeah, I think India's seen significant success with the DPI efforts over the last 15 years or so. And at some point, I think the question was, how do you think about all of the success that we have had and translate it to other domains? And so I think the confidence that came from that journey played off into it. But then the second thing is really the approach to say we need to solve this for the farmer. And the DPI approach sort of says we don't want to solve it for the farmer, we want to enable solutions for the farmer. And so that then leads to this idea of building a stack which has all of these elements on which multiple solutions can be built. That makes it actually quite extensible to provide for all of these services on top. And so I think having the confidence that the DPI approach works, having the mandate to do it, then also wanting to solve it for the farmer. I think the political value of doing it is very high. So I think it's very important that 60% of our country, which depends on agriculture, is taken care of and is not left behind. So I think all of that put together allowed for a very long effort to try out different approaches and to grow over time. It didn't happen overnight. I think it finally made it to the budget speech this year, but it's been many years in the making, and it's been many stakeholders, many people wanting to solve these problems and then taking it step by step to get us to this point. And, hats off to all those people who have been working on this space for so long just to get to this point. And I think we still have a long way to go. Yeah. We're not done yet. But I think it's a very good validation that we have had successes on the path here.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, definitely. And I think in India, with also now a couple of state governments taking it on, with the Mahavistar happening, this is definitely a movement forward. I did say earlier that the last part is going to be on inclusion, and I think a lot of us sitting in this room do have questions, and we are very, very conscious about what we are building, how this is inclusive. Riksha, touching about the, on the interplay between languages and last mile delivery, is inclusion beyond language? When we think about reaching the last mile, the marginalized farmer, we need multi-channel approaches. So one is, of course, language, but we also need multi-channel approaches and a broader set of choices. What does effective, inclusive last mile delivery mean to you?
Thanks, Nidhi. I think when we design these solutions, so to speak, it's very easy to design for the average user or the most accessible user. And so I think the inclusion needs to be built in at the design stage. And so that's thinking about both what content feeds in, what language you use, but even how you reach farmers at scale. And so, for us, that often means you're designing with farmers, you're not designing for them. And, that means you're designing for their unique constraints, low literacy, low connectivity. There's a whole range of, folks that are very happy to use smartphones and are comfortable with technology to people who live in places where there is no connectivity whatsoever. And I think any platform, any network approach needs to facilitate solutions that allow you to reach all those people. At scale, that of course looks partially like a multi-channel approach, but it also involves spending a lot of time trying to figure out what's the advice, is it actually solving the constraint, is it actionable, and constantly learning from farmer feedback, what's working and what's not. So the service improves at scale. It's not a static, we've built something and we scale it. We continue to learn from different user groups to ensure that this idea of inclusion continues to evolve as we meet different user needs at scale.
Yeah. I was going to actually say that, both of you, even Sanjay, I would really love both of you to talk about, how you look at inclusion, and especially how do you, as we are building everything that we are building, the infrastructure, how do you make sure that it covers diversity, it is inclusive in all ways? Yeah.
So I think my panelists have said it perfectly, but I do want to give an example of how we're talking about solving for the farmer and effective, inclusive last mile delivery through one of our projects, which was the AI weather forecasting and delivering the forecast to the farmers through SMS messaging. I tell this story often because on our side we built a great solution that could be provided to farmers. We worked closely with our partners with the Indian government. We worked closely with our partners at PXD to ensure the delivery and surveys. But when we actually went to visit the farmers to see for ourselves, we got very positive responses. But some farmers would say, yes, I received the information, and yes, I received the forecasting, but it didn't align with a religious holiday that I follow, which is when I know the rains come. So for me, as someone who can see that there are solutions, but then when I speak to a farmer and they give me this feedback, that is even more important than the technology and the solution itself, because if they don't trust it, or they don't trust you or the information, then what's the point, right? So really building for the farmer and with the farmer is the most important part of all of it.
We also at Digital Green, as we are building a solution, this is feedback mechanism is a very integral part of what we do. Ensuring that it's not coming from what we think, but we are making it along with the farmers for the farmers. That's typically what we also do, right? Sanjay, over to you.
Yeah, no, I think inclusion as such, I mean, very valid points out here about how we have to build with the end users in mind, and not just with them in mind, but with them actually building out together the solution. And when you think of India's scale, I mean, we are 1.4 billion people, and even if you were to look at a solution that would go to 99% of the people, you're still leaving out many million people. And so with all of that thinking, you have to actually enable the creation of these solutions. So it's not really about building the final solution, but saying, how do I build a weather system which can then reach every farmer? And maybe the way to reach the farmer may be SMS, or maybe a smartphone, or maybe an extension worker, because there's no phone. And so how do you make sure that you build a layer that then allows a customization which is more at the edge, which is very different for each user? And all of this requires trust. I mean, trust is an extremely important element of inclusion. And because if you lose the trust of people, either because you're not aligning to their beliefs, or you're sort of, you give them advice and it proves wrong, then, all of those are places where you can actually go wrong. So and you have to make sure that you build that trust in, and a lot of it comes from making sure that you're taking the right advice from the right people, you have the right stakeholders. So having the government as a stakeholder is very important, but so is it important to get agriculture experts and to get weather experts into the mix and to build their solutions. So it's not just about the technology, it's about all of this coming together. And so only then can you get to inclusion. But I think even then, it's always work in progress, right? I feel we still have a long way to go on that aspect as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think of course I can keep on asking questions, but one, I think the other day I was chatting with Jagdish JB, and I told him you all over, and he took me too seriously. I think decided that he should skip this one, but it could be the traffic outside. But before I summarize our discussion, any quick remarks that three of you have before I summarize it?
I guess the only thing I'll add to this entire conversation is, you can build the most perfect platform, the most perfect network, the most perfect technology. Trust takes time. And, to Fatima's point, as you're pushing newer information, things that might go against, knowledge people have held for years, both designing with them, but also, working over time to build that trust. You prove yourself right once, you communicate uncertainty adequately. There are different aspects that go into building trust, and I think that is going to be critical as we think about what it's going to take for, AI advisory services to go to scale.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think that we are at a very critical time as AI is coming and growing very quickly. There's a lot of excitement, but we also have to be very careful in terms of how we manage data and build models, and to make sure that we do it with the right partners. We build together to ensure that these public goods reach the people who need it the most.
Yeah. Welcome, JB.
We were just concluding and you're there in time.
Very sorry.
No, I was just telling the audience that I've been telling you that you're all over and you took me too seriously.
Oh my God.
I think, Sanjay, while you are giving your thoughts, I think you can just grab a sip of water, JB.
Yeah, so I think we are at a very critical point, as mentioned, because we've been working on this for a while, and AI is only growing in rapid, in terms of capabilities, and so it's actually a good time for us to see how we can use this increased capability to better our solutions, to maybe reach more people, and to be able to really improve, bring the people who suffered for so long out of poverty. I think this is the right time. And so with that, I'm going to give it back to JB.
Yeah. JB, I had, so to introduce JB is the CEO of ICSTEF Foundation and has been a very integral part of how, DPIs are being involved and the whole Vistar story also. JB, I think because we are just running out of time right now, but I think your experience, your role has been a lot about building the DPI also. I think I asked Sanjay this question since you were not there, and I know you're very passionate about this whole thing about DPI versus solutions and all of that. So would you like to cover that point? And of course, I know there was a question that I had for you on languages, right, from an inclusion point of view. So, if probably in one answer, if you can sum it all, and yeah.
First of all, because of certain VIP movements, the whole roads got blocked, and I was happily participating in the panel online. So in some sense, what I see is that there are many organizations, institutions and organizations developing massive amount of data in a very accountable manner. If you think about DPI in a simple way as data on rails, right? Where others can access, others can use, accountably, authoritatively. What AI does is to supercharge the whole idea. If you can actually bring data on rails and combine that with accountable and responsible AI, suddenly you are unlocking a lot of possibilities for population scale reforms. Think about a simple idea that an advisory sitting in a university becomes available at a fingertip to a farmer in context, in a very personalized manner, where you can combine the identity, the location, the context, the crop, and the season, weather data from weather systems, all of that together, and the schemes available for the farmer, and the status. For example, Amul recently launched a DPI powered by AI, where livestock identity is also part of the system. So when I say my cow is sick, I already know which cow it is. I already know the medicines the cow is taking. So when you combine all of these, what makes it possible is such an inclusive AI system. Think about technology systems in the past. They were all there, but you needed significant digital literacy and knowledge to be able to use them. With all due intentions, it was not very accessible. Today, the same systems, when combined with AI, supercharge inclusive access. So systems get reconfigured for a question. Previously, the interface was designing what kind of applications and workflows were there. Think about an AI app, any app. Workflow is decided by the developer and the person who is making the offer. Today, AI systems reconfigure itself for every question. So you have a million configurations possible with one interface. So this is a possibility. And now, with language work that India is leading for the last 4 or 5 years, one can supercharge with the local tongue of the farmer. Recently in Maharashtra, Bhili is a language spoken in the northern belts of Maharashtra. It took 4 weeks, maybe 5 weeks, to onboard the first data collection efforts to model building. Maharashtra will be launching it sometime here in one of the Maharashtra booths, as well as in Maharashtra on 21st. Bhili person speaking in Bhili, getting answers in Bhili, on voice, all in 5 weeks. Right? This kind of possibility where systems come together in your local language is phenomenally supercharging. I'm very excited by that possibility.
JB, since, I've just been told we have less than 5 minutes, but in a minute, if you can just tell us that, you took the example from Maharashtra, and I know that in terms of, how things are getting implemented on Open AgriNet and Vistar, what's the difference between what's happening in Maharashtra and what's happening in Ethiopia?
Wow. So we kind of, Nidhi and her team in Digital Green has been part of Vistar for us 3 years maybe, yeah. I think so, 3 years. Rikin has been a very passionate supporter. With Open AgriNet, we kind of brought together all the building blocks necessary. See, once somebody, I came here because somebody guided me to come in certain ways, quickly. That means a path taken already. Open AgriNet made it possible for somebody to create a path, create a safe path, responsible path, and others can follow. So Bharat Vistar, Mahavistar, Amul, and Ethiopia, all are bringing their institutions together, Ethiopia in Amharic language, Maharashtra in Marathi language, Amul in Gujarati, and Bharat Vistar is going to get launched tomorrow from Jaipur in Hindi and English, and available as a network to all states. Bihar is actually parallelly launching Bihar Krishi AI with Bharat Vistar. So you see the possibility of how when you connect a DPI to AI, DPIs can get interconnected and therefore data can flow on the same rails in a very interconnected manner. They are very similar, but different institutions coming together at a national level.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a way forward for all countries. What in the last 45 minutes, 50 minutes, what was basically, I think the word trust came up again and again out here, and it's about, you can't create public value on its own. It is about, getting basically how AI can help you to build more trust and how the systems are more interoperable. So that's one of the key things that I, took away from all of you. And also the earlier conversation on how Sanjay was explaining, things has to be horizontal, right? And then build up on that. And then I think there has to be a little bit of, while governments will build up the horizontal systems, how private players can build up your vertical systems or your other solutions out there. And also, as we are doing things at scale, none of these solutions really are effective unless they are done at scale. It doesn't need to be linear. Basically, good data standards and governance enable scale, while fragmented systems and weak processes create risk. So we have to make sure that there are the right kind of processes, the right kind of systems to ensure that there is, of course, the earlier point of trust and good governance out there. It has to be built on good governance system. Governance doesn't need to be an afterthought out here. And just finally, I think, while I've, finally, if I have to say that what are the key 4 points that we all discussed today, or what our takeaway would be, is basically start with public functions and not flashy use cases. We have to identify registries, eligibility systems, and advisory content that must work reliably before AI is introduced. So again, talking about the earlier point, build a strong base before the AI system is introduced. And I think that has been the success of some of the DPIs in India. And unbundle from delivery, right? So allow multiple public and private actors to innovate on top of shared governed data instead of locking governments into end-to-end platforms. So I think, again, it is a lot about the government basically building a platform and then others building on top of that. I think that is the way the scale will also come in. And the earlier thing on benchmarking evaluations, how that becomes extremely important to make sure that there is evidence-based scale up and not just scale up generally for it. And what I said earlier, your governance, your governance cannot be an afterthought, right? It has to be a part of your design principle. It has to be a part of how you plan in terms of building in your DPIs and your infrastructure. And with that, I think, yes, thank you to all of you. Last but not the least, what I said earlier, ensuring that whatever you build is an inclusive AI, right? We have to make sure that it's built on good governance, data, trust, and inclusive. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for being here. And thank you, JB, for finally making it.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I don't think we have time for questions. Sorry. Yeah. No, we've been told that our time is up. Sorry about that. Yeah. Thank you. Okay, lovely. I'm sure you can catch hold of one of them later on and ask them the question. Yeah. Thank you. You made it.
Good. A lot of flowers. Thank you very much, all of you, for putting up with my delay. I know. I passed the exam.
You have to thank them. They answered your questions.
I know. All of them are super trained on this.
Yeah, they answered your questions. You know, when I realized the question was finishing, it was only 20 minutes up. I said, no, now